Hey everybody, Guru Dan here. Just thought I'd share with you some of the basic footwork patterns from the Kalis Ilustrisimo system. System I belong to is KIRO, which is the Tony Jago lineage. And my direct teacher now is Arnold Nazar, and he's from the Philippines. You can check out, he does do online classes as well, so if you're interested. But I do recommend that you eventually find somebody that knows the system. There's a few of us scattered here throughout the US and around the world. So find somebody that knows the system that can touch hands with you, because that's really where the meat of the system's at. And you find out details you just can't get online. But Coach is a great teacher. He'll help you out and get you on that right path. Anyway, a couple things about the stances first. So stance is kind of tall for the most part. It's more like a boxing style stance. When you think about the stance from the side, the best way to just kind of describe this is you're on the ball of the foot for the most part. You're not on the toe, right? You're on the ball of the foot. Your hands, when I think about I almost think like Beavis and Butthead when they're doing like this all the time. I put my hands here and then I bring my hands right up and my elbows are in. And this is the basic Kalis Ilustrisimo ready position, right? Now, you're only going to be in this ready position at the very beginning, right? And after that, you strike from where you're at. And you'll see that when I do a striking patterns and things like that, a video. Anyway, if you think about if you have a blade, you don't want the blade facing back like this, right? Because that defeats the purpose, because now the blade has a long way to go. You really want the blade kind of forward here so you can just drop and do your technique. So again, you really don't want it tilted back, but your hands are up. You're ready, so you don't have the blade facing too far back, right? And that way the blade can just drop and go. So footwork patterns, the first patterns are typically your retreating footwork. It's called retrorata, retreating, and it's pretty much shuffles forward and back, and then some other types of footwork. So when you first start learning this, whatever direction you're moving, that foot's going to move first. So if you go backwards, the rear foot's going to move, and then you go here and then forward. This is your basic retrorata footwork. Again, you'd be doing strikes with, I'll get into that later, forward and then back. Again, honestly, it doesn't really matter which foot you're going with, because you want to practice both of these. Which foot you're going to be forward with, in reality, is going to determine your position. So practice it both ways. When you practice the basic drills, typically your right foot's forward when you first start, because that's what most FMA is used to. Anyway, that's your basic retrorata footwork. So you'll see a couple different things, types of retreating footwork. One type of retreating footwork will be your Kalis. I've seen different variations of Kalis, and I'll show you the variation that we currently use. So when you first saw a Kalis, you'll see it a lot of times in books and old videos, things like that. You'll see like a deep stance. It's neck stance, right? So if you're facing this way, you step back again. Again, it's retreating. So that rear foot's always going to move first, and then you go into here. Some of the Ricketts lineage still keep that a Kalis deep like that. I learned some of that from Guru Vico, who was much appreciative of. He's a great friend. But anyway, you'll see that. You'll also see a Kalis done, and these aren't right or wrong, right? It's just different variations. And I'll show you the one we use here in a minute. So you're here, another type of Kalis is coming here, and you're coming to kind of like the side, right? And the reason behind that is because if I go sideways, it allows that shoulder to come more forward, right? If I'm trying to strike at something out there. Again, when I do this, any type of a Kalis or anything, I don't want the weight to go on the rear foot, right? I want the weight to stay here as I do everything. Now, the type of Kalis I'm used to is not so deep. So it's typically here. So the Kalis I'm used to is here and then forward. Again, if you see me with my retreating footwork, I step back first. Sometimes it's an angle, sometimes it's straight back, depending. We'll go on that in a minute. And then I come forward and shuffle back. So here and then forward. Again, it doesn't matter if you're going here with the Kalis. Doesn't matter if you're going here with the Kalis. Doesn't matter if you're just going here with the Kalis, right? So they're all kind of accomplished in the same thing. There's pros and cons to each one. So when the other retreating footwork, so you have the regular retreating, you have the Kalis, and you have the lutang. Lutang sometimes called floating footwork, and different variations of that too. This is the variation I do. Again, retreating because we're stepping back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shuffle back or step back, and then this rear foot's going to float. Now, When I do this, I don't necessarily want to do that, right? I don't necessarily want to bend. I want to just let it slide and come back. It's floating, right? The other thing I don't want to do is I don't want my head to come forward because somebody's going to hit it, right? And teach me a valuable lesson. So anyway, when I step back, it's here and back, here and back. And again, it's each, whether it's an Akis or a Lutong or whatever the footwork might be, retrorata, there's certain strikes that kind of work best for those. Other strikes, if you try to apply them, they'll get you off balance potentially. And probably talk about that when I get into the striking video. So again, the best way to practice the retreating footwork is to practice it just, sorry, wrong footwork. Forward and back, forward and back. You can practice your Akis forward and back. You can practice your Lutong forward and back. And then when you get used to the strikings and apply that, when we get into that, it'll help you a lot. So practice that first. Now let's talk about some of the more, I wouldn't say advanced footworks, but more that are past the retreating. The retreating is really the first thing you learn because retreating is the easiest to learn because it's straightforward and back, right? Another type of footwork you'll learn is called a tatambao, which is like the translation I was told was like 3 coconuts, right? So what you see, it's very similar, honestly, to the box step I did in Komotan with the video I did there. What happens with the tatambao is I'm coming to the side and then coming off to that point. So if you think about a big triangle, I'm coming to here, or you can think of it as a box step too, if you want. So I'm coming to the side and I'm facing that person, wherever that person might be, right? So let's say they're right here in front of me. I'm stepping to the side and here. Now, a couple of things, it doesn't matter. You want to practice this to a point where you can go to the left, you can go to the right, you can come back to center and practice it each time too. To the left, come back to center, to the right, come back to center, or you can just get used to stepping here, right to it, right? And doing whatever footwork it is. What you'll find, Tasaluk is very similar to the triangle pattern I showed in the Komotan video where we're going back to the point. What happens with that particular footwork is there's something in the center, right? So let's say I'm over here and I can't really get to the other side easily. I can't get to this side easily because there's something in the center. Maybe a strike's coming to the center, their hands in the center, whatever it might be. In that case, I'm going back to here. When I say center, I mean crossing the center, right? When I need to get around that center, I'll come off or away. I'm still on center, but I'm away from the target, and that comes to the other side. So I can come away from the target and then to the other side. So again, think about it as like going around something. You know, if somebody's got a fist there, and you can't just step right to the other side, so you have to go around that fist. Maybe a thrust is coming of some kind. You have to go around that. You can't just go like that. So you have to come around and then over with your technique. So that's another type, tatambao, and then the tasaluk. So another type of footwork that you may find is really just the angles of those particular types of footwork. So the offensive defensive drill, when you start learning that, the very first drill, it's where you're using a block and then you're moving. So what happens a lot of times, you may go straight back and you retrorata, and then you'll go to one of your side positions, right? Or you go straight back and then to your side position. You go stack on this side and then to the side position. There's a whole drill based off of it. So, you can play with it. You see the pattern I have here behind me. You can play with that pattern and just practice going, if you're just going into a circle like this with it. You'll see me do this kind of stuff all the time with my students. I've got short range, medium range, and then get out to largo range when I do this stuff. When you first practice this, so you don't feel like you're like going too far, the best way to practice this is just be in a comfortable range when you do it. You can just practice going to the right. If I step to the left, again, just like I mentioned in the Komotan video, if I go to the left, that foot's going to move. If I go to the right foot's going to go forward. If I go to the left foot's going to go forward. So I can practice these footworks. And again, once I learn strikes, I can start doing all that too. I can practice it where I'm going back first and then over. I'm going back and then over. I'm going back and then over. So I can practice all those types of footworks. I can also practice any of my like Akises or my Lutongs coming off at an angle too. So I could, for instance, I could step back, do my Lutong, and then come to the other side, right? So I'm allowing that, I'm doing whatever strike, block, and then come to the other side. When I do tatambao, or I go to the angle, your safest bet when you first start using this footwork is to go parallel, or directly horizontal, I should say. right? If you go forward on this footwork, this is a great area, right? Sometimes when you get good at this, you can go forward. Don't let that be your default. Let your default go sideways, because if you go sideways or horizontal to it, then it's going to keep your range. If you start learning to practice, if you can see it from here, if I use this line as a reference here, I'll use this line. If I'm used to stepping forward, well, I've just encroached the range, right? So I'm better off learning it where I'm stepping to the side and doing my technique. And that way, if I have to come forward or back, I can get used to that, because a lot of this is really a feel thing. When you practice the techniques, there's angles and all that kind of stuff too, but you get to the point where when you practice this, you just kind of know when you get hit, right? It's like sparring, right? I remember meeting another maestro, and I was playing a lot with his systems, and he goes, "Oh, you're very hard to hit." And I said, "Yeah, I can feel it." And I say this for this comment here is that, I've been sparring for like 30 years, right? If I can't like not feel when I get hit, when I'm going to get hit, by now you're probably in trouble, right? So so my point is, play safe first, get to the point where you can feel things and in real life situations, and then decide whether you start encroaching or whatever. Same thing, if I want to go lutong on the other side, I can go back and then put that lutong forward on this side. So it's almost similar, honestly, to me. I know I'm referencing kombatan, because I'm not trying to say KI is kombatan at all. I'm trying to say that there's similarities. If you look at the old classical triangles I did in kombatan, it's not that far off when you do the lutong to the left, right? Same thing with the box step. It's not that far off from this stance, right? There's a lot of similarities in the footwork, because they're both classical sword-based and what have you, and some of the Largo footwork at least. And so those kind of footworks you can start applying. Same thing when you do your keys. I can start going to, instead of straight backwards with the keys, I can start going to the side with the keys a little bit, right? Same idea here. I can go to the side here with the keys. So I'm playing off those 45-degree angles when I do things. Anyway, that's the basic KI footwork that I can think of right now. I'll go over the strikes here in another video, so stay tuned. Thanks a lot, guys. Put your comments down. Thanks.